Welcome. Hi, I'm Ida Reis, certified divorce lending professional. And this interview is part of the divorce literacy series from the Divorce Lending Association. And today I have with me my friend Wendy Meadows. Welcome, Wendy.
Thank you. Hi, welcome. Why am I saying welcome? Hi. So good to see you.
Yes, good to have you here. Would you kindly give us a little bit of background about your practice and some of the other exciting things that you've been doing?
Of course. I'll try and give you a brief summary because I could probably talk for a whole half an hour, right?
Okay.
But I've been a family law attorney for about 18 years.
Mhm.
And I opened up my own practice a little over 5 years ago. So family law attorney, you probably know as like someone who does like litigation, mediation, collaborative, all these things. But I am actually no longer litigating here in Maryland. I'm a mediator, so I mediate a lot of family law disputes. I'm a parent coordinator, and that is where you're basically the referee for two parents to help them reach decisions. And if they can't reach the decision, you make the decision for them, so long as they're minor. And I also practice collaborative law, and that's how I believe how you and I met, more in like the collaborative law context. In addition to that, and because I'm no longer litigating cases, I actually have another business as well. And for the last several years, I have been life coaching women, primarily lawyer moms, is what I like to call them, but professional women from all over the country. And that has most recently also prompted me to write a book. So I am now a best-selling author as well. And my book came out a little over a month ago.
Terrific. So tell us about, just before we get into the law piece, I would like to hear a little bit more about your book and maybe how this all goes together, because I know it all kind of spawned out of your, life experience, and of course, which had to be from your family law practice as well. So go ahead.
Oh my gosh, definitely. So this is the book. It's called Sparkle and Grit. And the tagline is live a technicolor life by finally finding balance, escaping monotony, and beating burnout. So that's the book right there, Sparkle and Grit. It's on Amazon. And this book is the book that I wish I had in my hands, probably somewhere in the 2015 era. So had I had this book back in 2015, my life would have been simpler, I think, in terms of not feeling so alone, in terms of how I could structure my day as a family law attorney and make sure that I was the CEO of my day and that I could best represent my clients that way as well, and how to also be more present at home as a mom. And I would say my experience of being a family law attorney definitely helped me write this book.
Okay. How does that sort of meld into your family law practice? I heard you say the word not feeling alone, and I'm sure there's a lot of divorce clients that kind of feel like that because, their life is turned upside down. And I know I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts on that. So I'm going to give it over to you for that question.
So where I think Sparkle and Grit fits in for the divorce clients is in so many different ways. And I was actually saying, I think my next book is going to be Sparkle and Grit for like the divorcing parent, like very particular for that person.
Yeah.
But where I saw Sparkle and Grit transform my practice was I started waking up. I would say that there was a different way to deal with family law and to treat clients somewhere in 2016, 2017. And what I realized was when we speak to our clients in a way that is uplifting and goal-oriented and collaborative, and we really coach our clients to become the best people they can be, when we are in that realm, then we have a better synergy with our clients, we have a better rapport with them, and in turn, they will actually grow as a person during this process, because the divorce process isn't like a car accident, right? It's not a car accident where did someone run the red light, period, end of story, done. Instead, it's you get your client where they are, usually in a very vulnerable, sad, frustrating time, and then we can coach them to be like, look at the other side of things, see things are going to be so much better. And in that whole process, we can get them from point A to point B in a much more loving way, where I think they're actually going to get better results as well.
That sounds wonderful. I'm sure that our audience is appreciating that approach. And what do you think is, so based on what you just said, I think I know the answer, but let's let our audience hear it. What do you think is the most challenging thing for someone going into divorce as an attorney? So you're seeing it from a different side than, say, maybe somebody who handles mental health or, the financial neutral kind of situation. You're seeing it from a different side. And then after that, what is the most misunderstood thing that you see?
So I think the hardest part about being a divorce attorney is that it's not just what you and your client want and need, right? It's also what opposing counsel and their client want and need. And it's also about what a judge might also view the case as. So I think the hardest part as a divorce attorney, you're not just managing yourself, you're also managing your client, the opposing side, wondering what your opposing counsel, wondering what your opposing client is then going to say to their client. So you have like this awful game of telephone going on, right? And then you have the unknown of a judge as well. So I think the hardest part is really not being able to manage or have control over every single piece of the process, which is why I really like collaborative law, because
Yes.
when you're or mediation, when you're practicing collaborative law, everybody's around the table together and opposing. And sometimes I found actually the attorney on this side and the party on this side, so opposing, actually understand each other better. Or sometimes I understand what the opposing party is saying and says in their position better than their attorney understands it. And like, not in a mean way, like I just see it and I see where it's going. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then they are also hearing from me directly, knowing I'm not a villain. I'm not vilifying them. I'm not trying to make them out to be this horrible, bad person. But in the collaborative law, we're all hearing each other at the same time. So that's why I really like collaborative in terms of divorce. And also why I really love mediation. Like, I think I've told you before, I'm no longer litegating. I shut off the spigot, the litigation several years ago. I have one case still sort of trickling along, but I find my strong suit is in mediation and helping mom and dad or husband and wife or partner and partner resolve their differences by coming to the same table with me.
Okay. So when you have that first meeting, do you think maybe one of the most challenging things is to sort of set that environment that you're not vilifying them, you're trying to get them all to relax and know that it's going to come to a resolution that is, you're working towards this resolution that's going to be okay for everybody. Is that a fair statement? Yeah.
I think so. So in the mediation statement, I don't think anyone's going to feel vilified just because in the mediation context, because everyone's coming to the table together. I do compliment my parties I work with like 1 million times, saying it's amazing you're here in mediation. You're going to save so much money and so much time. And, I'll have them reconfigure statements if they need to, with regard to each other. But there's usually not an opportunity for either person to feel vilified, in that world.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's more of the litigation piece where you kind of decided to pull out of that.
Move away from.
Yes.
Because, and even still, I will say the frustrating thing as the mediator, right? So I'm most often in the family law world, I'm the mediator. So mediator either with both parties or with each party and their attorney, right? So it would be like a 5-way mediation. And the really frustrating piece is hearing the lawyer over here talk about the party over here like they know them, right? And there is vilification. The attorney here vilifying the party over here and saying, and I can't believe this, and they're doing that, and all this stuff, forgetting that this person is like a human being. Like, they're a human being. They have their flaws, but they have their good parts too. And that, I think that's the hard part about being the mediator in that context, because you can see everybody's position and you can see everybody's why and their values, and rarely is anyone a terrible, awful person, right? Like that's rare.
Yeah,
And has some value to give.
yes. If you had to give some advice to a client that's just starting the process, maybe they're just out there trying to make a decision, what do I do next? What would you say to them? What would you?
Several things. I would say usually they can find good attorneys by probably their local Facebook moms group, if this is a mom,
Mm.
and not to look for things like, let's not look for the bulldog, let's not look for, the pit bull. Like that's what people usually call like the lawyer, like
Yeah,
the really
yeah.
aggressive lawyers. Because usually really aggressive lawyer means you are going to be paying lots and lots of money for somebody to advocate for a position that you don't even want. So
Mhm.
that happens so often. So if they want the pit bull bulldog lawyer, that also means easily they could be spending $100,000 in the next year on a lawyer, which is that really where they want to spend their money.
Mm.
So number one, to consider, instead of looking for high intense litigation, to look for an amazing mediator in their area, or to consider the collaborative law process. So that's number one tip. Number two tip is to be really prepared. And really prepared means they should go through their financials. They should know how much their house is worth, what's their current mortgage. They should know what they have in the way of retirement, what their spouse has in the way of retirement. They should have all these things nice, like maybe an Excel sheet or a piece of paper. So when they finally do sit down with an attorney, they're prepared. They know what they have. They know what the other side has. They also need to know, do they want to stay in the house? How much is it going to cost them to stay in the house? If they do like a little budget, I know some people like to use Nerd Wallet. I think that's like a cheap one they can do out there, and it's a
Mhm.
pretty good financial statement. And then the big question is, okay, and where do you want to go? And if you're going to move somewhere else, where is that going to be? What are the houses, or what's the rent in the area? And then what will my budget be then? And the more clear they can be, and the more they can, before they have that first attorney meeting, and if they know where they want to be a year from now, to really give some consideration, okay, well, where do I want to be a year from now once this divorce is done? To have a nice, clear idea of what that is, the better. And they might say, well, I don't know the law yet. I don't know what I can have. I don't know what the attorney tells me. And all true, but they should still have a good idea of what they want what their goal life should be. Is something to shoot for.
Terrific. That's great. Um, would you be okay with sharing something that was particularly significant in a gratifying case without, I know that you want to be careful with sharing information
Yeah.
that might be personal, but do you,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah. So this is from many, many moons ago. And I had a wife. It was, a wife who was a really, really hard worker, and she brought all the money to the table. Husband did nothing. He was a bum, like did nothing.
Mhm.
And she came to me and she was just miserable. She was so miserable and didn't know what to do. And we were like talking, and I'm like, you can leave. And they had no children, so this made it a little easier. You can leave. She's like, I can. I'm like, yeah. It's like, well, is anyone going to use that against me? Like, no. I mean, we need to figure out the mortgage. Like, we don't want it to hurt your credit, but you can leave. She's like, oh, it's like just being able to give her permission that it was okay for her to leave, and it was okay for her to figure out, okay, maybe just work out something with him. Like, I think we worked it out. Like, she paid like half the mortgage and he paid the other half, and then she rented a house like for a while. And she just didn't know she was allowed to. And I just think she was so like not shell shocked. She was so talked down to by him for so long, and she thought she would be in trouble. And then I kept saying with her, sharing with her, I'm like, life is going to be better on the other side. Like, I know it. Like, your life is going to be so much better once you're out of there and your brain can think. And then once you're actually divorced, even though it sounded like a horrible process, and she was really nervous. And then sure enough, like, we got her out and we got the house. So we figured out all the other stuff, with the court's help in that one. But we figured out all the other stuff, and then her life was better on the other side. She's, oh my gosh, Wendy, thank you so much. She needed permission to leave. And that happens with all of us, I think, in some ways, but that was one of my favorite success stories.
That's a great story. And I think that when you have cases like that, because we all do in our respective professions, that's what keeps us going every day. When we can really help somebody like that and have them be able to move on with their life. All
Agreed.
right. Well, we are hitting the end here. Do you have any final thoughts for our listeners?
Final thoughts. I would say, like, and are your listeners more professionals or people going through a divorce? Like what?
Probably more, I think maybe some professionals might listen to the end, but it's probably more for
Mhm.
somebody who's considering divorce or maybe, gotten started or that sort
Right.
of listener.
Right. So if I'm allowed to say it, I would say my book would be helpful, even though I haven't written book number 2 yet, Sparkle and Grit for the divorcing person. I think my book would be helpful because when you go through this process, which is incredibly emotionally and financially draining, you want to be your very best self. And you want to be your very best self because at the end of the day, you are going to be your best advocate. No matter how much your attorney loves you, no matter like if you hire the best person in the world, you still need to be your best advocate and you still need to remind your attorney because your attorney has 25 million cases, right? You need to remind your attorney frequently, what you want, why you want it, and here's the documents that, they need to best advocate for you as well. But before you can even get there, you need to be the best advocate for yourself, again, by taking care of yourself. So in my book, I give you different ways that you can approach self-care. I give you different ways to approach your morning routine or to be the CEO of your day, or really the CEO of your divorce.
Yeah,
So I really think my book would be great for those parents because it helps get them to be their best selves. And that is the person you need to be in the family law world. Because like I said before, family law cases are living, breathing cases, right? By the time you decide you want to get divorced until the time you actually get a divorce might be 3 to 5 years. And that is not an exaggeration, like whatsoever. My last case lasted 5 years. So in order to best care for yourself to get the best result, in order to get the best result, you need to best care for yourself. And I firmly believe my book can do that for people. And if they follow the steps in the book, I think they are going to have a better process mentally throughout their divorce than they
yes,
would otherwise.
that's great. That's great. Where can they get your book, Wendy? Where would they go for that?
Yeah. So you can go on Amazon and type in Sparkle and Grit, or if they can't remember, what to put in, even like sparkleandgrit.com will take them right to a link where they can purchase the book. I also have a journal coming out very soon, and they can purchase a journal as well. The journal also, I think, would be amazing for someone going through the divorce process because it reminds you to have gratitude and it reminds you of places where you can do better. And we're human and your listeners are human. They're going to mess stuff up in the divorce process. They're going to mess stuff up. They're going to send a text they wish they didn't send. They're going to send an email they wish they didn't. They might even make the wrong hire at times. And the really important thing is they already have enough going on. They should not be beating themselves up over this one thing, but they should instead say, okay, well, what can I do better today? Where can I keep moving the needle forward to be the person I need to be in this process? And I would say the journal would be great for them in that way to have that reminder on what they're grateful for, but also where they can do best the next day. And then how they can also hold themselves out on a particular day when they know it's going to be really hard for them, how they can be the best version of themselves.
Excellent. Excellent. So how would our listeners get in touch with you, Wendy? What can we leave
Same.
them?
If they go to the sparkleandgrit.com, that will lead to my website, and there's my email and contact information. All of that is there. I'm also on LinkedIn and on Wendy S. Meadows, and I'm sure you'll put some of this in the show notes. They can just click on it and find me that way.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your valuable time today, for sharing with us. We appreciate everything that you spoke about, and we'll see you again soon.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks so much.